The war in Ukraine is a tragedy. It's also a wake-up call for Europe. This isn't just a regional conflict. It's a seismic event with global consequences. Europe is now facing its biggest security crisis since World War II. Why should we care? Because what happens in Europe affects us all. A stable and prosperous Europe is in everyone's interest. A Europe in chaos is a threat to global security. This war is a test for Europe. It's a test of our values, our unity, and our resolve. The decisions we make now will shape the future of Europe for generations to come. The stakes couldn't be higher. The war in Ukraine has shattered the old European order. Alliances are shifting, old certainties are crumbling. Russia's invasion has pushed Finland and Sweden into NATO's arms. This is a historic shift. It shows how deeply Russia has miscalculated. The war has also exposed divisions within Europe. Some countries are calling for a swift and decisive response to Russian aggression. Others are urging caution and restraint. These divisions will be difficult to bridge, but bridge them we must. A divided Europe is a weak Europe. A united Europe is essential to deterring further Russian aggression. The war in Ukraine is having a profound impact on European societies. Millions of Ukrainians have fled their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries. The outpouring of support has been heartwarming, but the scale of the refugee crisis is testing Europe's capacity for compassion. The war is also fueling social tensions. The influx of refugees is putting a strain on housing, healthcare, and other essential services. Right-wing populist parties are exploiting these anxieties, seeking to divide and conquer. Europe must resist these forces of division. We must remember our shared humanity. We must stand united in the face of this challenge. The war in Ukraine is sending shockwaves through the global economy. Europe is particularly vulnerable. We are heavily reliant on Russian energy, and the war has disrupted global supply chains, leading to soaring inflation. The cost of living is rising sharply across Europe. People are struggling to pay their bills. Businesses are struggling to survive. Governments are facing difficult choices. The economic consequences of this war will be felt for years to come. But we must not allow Putin to blackmail us. We must stand firm in our support for Ukraine, and we must accelerate the transition to a green economy. Section 5. Echoes of the past. History rhymes, not repeats. The ghosts of history are haunting Europe once again. The war in Ukraine is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. It's a reminder that the lessons of history must be learned. Some have compared Putin to Hitler, others have drawn parallels to the Cold War, but history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. The current situation is unique, but there are clear echoes of the past. We must be wary of appeasement, we must stand up to aggression, and we must never take peace for granted. Section 6. The energy crisis, a rude awakening for Europe. The war in Ukraine has exposed Europe's dangerous dependence on Russian energy. This conflict has highlighted the vulnerabilities in our energy infrastructure and the risks associated with relying too heavily on a single source. For years, we have relied on cheap Russian gas to power our homes and industries. This has allowed us to maintain a certain level of economic stability and growth, but it has come at a significant cost. This dependence has made us vulnerable to Russian pressure. The geopolitical landscape has shifted and our energy security is now at risk. Putin is now using energy as a weapon. By manipulating gas supplies, he aims to exert political influence and create divisions within Europe. He has cut off gas supplies to several European countries, causing immediate disruptions and long-term uncertainties. And he is threatening to do the same to others. This has created a climate of fear and urgency among European nations. This is a wake-up call for Europe. We can no longer afford to be complacent about our energy security. We need to diversify our energy sources. This means looking beyond traditional fossil fuels and exploring alternative options. And we need to accelerate the transition to renewable energy. Solar, wind, and other renewable sources must become a larger part of our energy mix. The good news is that the war has given new urgency to the green transition. This crisis has pushed us to rethink our energy strategies and prioritize sustainability. European countries are now investing heavily in renewable energy. Governments and private sectors are pouring resources into developing cleaner, more sustainable energy solutions, and they are working to reduce their energy consumption. Energy efficiency measures are being implemented across the continent to lower demand and increase resilience. This is a positive development. These efforts will not only enhance our energy security, but also contribute to global climate goals. But it will take time to wean ourselves off Russian gas. The transition is complex and requires coordinated efforts from all stakeholders. In the meantime, we need to be prepared for a difficult winter. Contingency plans are being put in place to ensure that we can weather the challenges ahead. The war in Ukraine has forced Europe to confront its defense weaknesses. The conflict has exposed vulnerabilities that many had hoped were relics of the past. For years, many European countries have neglected their militaries, allowing equipment to become outdated and readiness to decline. They have relied heavily on the United States to provide security, assuming that American support would always be there. This era of dependency is now over. European nations are realizing the need for self-reliance in defense matters. The war in Ukraine has shown that Europe can no longer take its security for granted. The threat is real and immediate. We need to be able to defend ourselves to ensure that we are prepared for any potential threats. European countries are now increasing their defense spending, investing in modernizing their forces and improving their capabilities. And they are strengthening their military capabilities, from advanced technology to better training for their troops. This is a necessary step to ensure the safety and stability of the region, but it is not without risks. The increase in military capabilities could lead to unintended consequences. There is a danger that increased military spending will lead to a new arms race, escalating tensions rather than diffusing them. And there is a risk that Europe will become more militarized, which could undermine the peace and cooperation that the continent has worked so hard to achieve. We need to find a way to strengthen our defenses without undermining our values, ensuring that our actions are in line with the principles of democracy and human rights that we hold dear. The war in Ukraine has raised the spectre of a new Iron Curtain descending across Europe. The lines of division are becoming increasingly clear. On one side are the countries of the West, united in their opposition to Russian aggression. On the other side is Russia and its allies. This division is not just geographical, it is also ideological. Russia is increasingly isolated from the West, and it is becoming more authoritarian at home. It is too early to say whether this division will become permanent, but it is clear that the relationship between Russia and the West has been fundamentally changed. The war in Ukraine is a tragedy for all involved, but it is particularly tragic for the people of Ukraine. They are bearing the brunt of the fighting, and they are suffering unimaginable losses. The war is also having a profound impact on the children of Ukraine. Millions of children have been displaced from their homes. Many have witnessed horrific violence, and all of them are living with the fear and uncertainty of war. The psychological scars of this war will take years to heal, and the long-term consequences for Ukraine's future are difficult to overestimate. The war in Ukraine is a turning point in European history. It has shattered the illusion of lasting peace on the continent and has brought back memories of past conflicts that many hoped were long buried. It marks the end of the post-Cold War era, a period characterized by relative stability and cooperation among European nations. And it is ushering in a new era of uncertainty and insecurity, where old alliances are tested and new threats emerge. The full consequences of this war are still unfolding, with ripple effects being felt across the globe. But one thing is clear: Europe will never be the same. The geopolitical landscape has been irrevocably altered. The war has already had a profound impact on Europe's security, economy, and society. Nations are re-evaluating their defense strategies and economic policies, and it is likely to have a lasting impact on the continent's psyche, influencing how Europeans view their place in the world and their relationships with neighboring countries. The Europe that emerges from this crisis will be different. It will be a continent that has been forced to adapt to new realities. It will be more divided, more militarized, and more uncertain of its place in the world. The unity that once defined Europe is now under strain, but it will also be a Europe that has been forced to confront its vulnerabilities. This crisis has exposed weaknesses that can no longer be ignored, and it will be a Europe that is more determined than ever to defend its values and its way of life. The resilience of its people and the strength of its institutions will be put to the test, but there is hope that Europe will emerge stronger and more united in its diversity.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.